Hi everybody. Today I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to make a large plate, okay? I'm going to be using 25 pounds of clay and I have 2 lumps of clay over here. One of the best pieces of advice that I really give is that you use soft clay. It'll really allow you to stretch the clay out. If you're working with stiff clay, it's really tough to pull that clay out, all right? So, I'm going to take the first guy. And this is where all that wedging occurs. I'll take this, get it in the middle. Now, to make a bigger plate, you're going to need a bigger bat. So here's just a bigger plate. I think this bat is about 18 inches. So we'll get in there. I like to do just a little bit of, pounding on the clay before I really get started. And you can see it's pretty soft, okay? Quite mushy. Now I get my second piece, and this is where I like to get a lot of power down. Okay, so I'm going to take this and really slap it. Now, I don't want to trap air here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this, all right, and work that down. That way we don't get any air bubbles in there. And then, now here, I start to work it. Now, it's probably not a bad idea to have towels on your legs because, without your splash pans, you're going to get water all over the place. So for you guys, you may want to move back just a little bit, all right? To be forewarned, right? Okay, so now we got that. That's pretty good, all right? That looks pretty good. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a little bit of wedging. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of wedging up. But really, a lot of wedging will happen when I'm stretching that clay out, okay? So we're going to get a little bit of water, all right? And now, if I'm going to move this amount of clay, I can't just get in there. I've got to get that support. So I literally will lock my elbow and push this way. With the same time, I'm going to be pulling this way with the hand, all right? So you see, but I'm locked down here as well. So this will help to drive that clay up. All right. Huh? All right. Now here's that volcano you guys are talking about, right? Here's how you cure the volcano. All right. I'm going to take the palm of my hand and I'm going to, on an angle, I'm going to come down a little bit. Here we go. You ready? Volcano. All right. No volcano. I did not trap any air. All right, you see how I did that? All right, and it's just holding that palm of that hand on sort of like a 45. All right, now I'm going to pull my hands together. And again, I'm using different parts. Normally on smaller pieces, you're using fingertips. I'm using the palm of this hand. And again, I'm locking everything together and creating that triangle. So here we go. We just go like that. All right, and I'm going to do that again. I'm going to grab this. I'm locked in pretty well. And now I can bring it up a little bit. Look, we got that volcano. All right, we can drop this guy down, right? All right. Now, when I am working with this big lump of clay, I don't need to be as aggressive to bring it up and to bring it down because I'm going to get some wedging this way, all right? But first I got to clean this up. Now again, we're talking about a plate, right? A big plate. Now in this particular case, you say 25 pounds, that seems like a lot. But once I start to stretch that clay wide, I exponentially need to use more clay. The second reason is I want to put a nice foot on this, okay? Without having to go back and put a coil on it. I'm going to want this guy to be about that thick for a plate like this. And then I'll just trim it away and get a nice foot on it. All right, so always leave a little extra. So here's where you're going to see this stretching out. I'm going to go like this. And you see how I'm locking my hands together? And I'm going to push and I'm going to come this way. Drop that down. All right. And now, the other thing I've done is I start going like this. So I'm making a bigger footprint by taking my thumb and doing the same thing I did at the top of that volcano. I'm just holding it on that 45. Now I'm going to stretch it. I'll even these out, and I'll keep doing the same thing. So I'm going to take this, This is the technique. Elbows down, hands are locked, everything's locked together. And we're just going to run this guy out. All right, we're going to run him out. We're going to do this again. Going to take this and just keep running this out. Do this. And if you notice, it keeps getting wider and wider and wider. Now, all along, one of the most important things that you can do is compress. You got to compress those particles. We want to make that fluffy clay nice and packed. Otherwise, we're going to get a classic S crack, okay? So if you see an S in the shape of Shazam, that tells you didn't compress those particles enough, okay? So again, I'm applying a lot of pressure here, and I'm just walking this out. I'm thinning it too, thinning it out. All right. It's just, that's about as thick as I want it, thin as I want it. I may stretch it out just a little bit more. And how thick is it? It's like this thick. Again, I know I need all that extra clay. I don't mind trimming it off later. All right. Okay, so that's pretty good right now. So I want to refine this shape. We want it relatively flat, but I want just a little slight curve. There's just something about that I really like. So I'm going to take my S12, and again, I'm going to furtherly compress this so I don't get that S crack, but I'm also refining the shape. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to kind of walk it along, okay? And if I get a lot of clay here, I'll just, all right, walk it out. Now everybody throws a little bit different. So I do it one way, somebody else will do it another way. I say whatever works for you. But I'm always adding a little bit of water here. I just kind of get this. All right. Yeah, look at how thick that is, okay? Now this will end up being real light and feel normal weight when I'm done. And again, then I'm going to get all of that through the trimming. That's a great question. So how do you know when you've compressed it enough? So sometimes when you're compressing, for me, I'll hear like these little snap, crackle, pops. That tells me there's little air bubbles, there's little compression things. When you kind of stop hearing that, that's a pretty good sign. But just keep going over and over and over with those compressions. And that's just going to help your pot out a lot. But that's usually how I kind of tell. All right, so now that we've gotten this, that's going to be a nice inside. I'm going to go ahead and begin to bring this up. All right, so I'm going to take my outside hand. Well, first we're going to fix this so it's not bouncing so much. All right, and I get that nice and even. And now we're going to bring this up. So with my outside hand, I'm going to kind of push this way to drive this up. So even though it looks like a plate now, what I want to do is, well, actually I can stretch this out. We'll just leave it. What I want to do now is I'm going to take this amount of weight and bring it up. I'm not going to go out like a plate. I'm just going to bring it up. And we're just going to pinch this outside and pinch the inside. And I got to be careful not to pinch down too far here, otherwise you're going to get like a divot, right? So we don't want to do that. I'm going to compress these two parts together. All right, I think I'm going to rotate to the bigger sponge. And I'm going to push here and push this up. And again, not everybody throws like this, but I've just found this easier for me. And here's the key, compress this top. So you want to take your hands, and again, everything's about compression. So I'm just compressing this a little bit. All right, now we're going to kind of fix this inside. Again, I'm going to do this way. Got a little bit of an air bubble there. And again, I'm just kind of skimming this a little bit. I want to try to get this nice and flat with a slight curve. All right. Looking pretty good so far. And again, I'm just compressing, getting this nice and flat. Probably do one more pass. Because everything else is easy after this, but getting this nice and even and the shape you want, and with all those good compressions. All right. All right. Here's the tough part, always finding your tools. I know the wooden rib is somewhere. It's under the clay. Okay, thanks, Jim. All right, so we want to go back to this. I'm just going to clean this up a bit. So I want to get rid of all this extra nonsense down here. This helps for trimming too. So we're going to, all right. All right. I'm just removing the clay. This is a very important move, especially when trimming. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a little notch in the bottom. That's going to allow me to wire cut this. All right, now we're setting up probably for the final set of throwing. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to just bring this up. Everybody wants to come out and then go horizontal, and then you create a crack. But I'm just going to go up for the moment. All right, we're going to do this again. Now it looks almost like a pie plate, right? It's like, well, that's not a plate. Well, here's where you get to see the plate.
Well, at the end, you switched your fingers this time.
Probably.
You made it go out. Did you let more of the inside hand push it out a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
I let them more of the inside hand and pushed it out. So a little bit more here. Okay. After I've kind of gotten it like straight up and I feel pretty good about the thickness of that, then I go ahead and I'll do that. Okay. And now I'm also pushing a little bit, just a little bit. We don't want to break that arch, right? All right, now here comes the plate. Everybody ready for it? Okay, get my S12. I'm going to apply some pressure right here. That is going to allow this to drop down a little bit. So we'll take this, add a little bit of water. Okay. Or a lot of water. Okay. Yeah. That's the curve I'm looking for. And now, all right, that's good. Now I'm just going to stretch out that top. Okay, we're just going to, I'm going to back my seat up. We're just going to stretch it out, okay? We're going to flare this out. Oop. And there's your plate. Thank you.